Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Xenosaga Episode 1, Der Wille zur Macht. Alright, it's been a long time coming, and I've waited much too long. Although, funnily enough, the one thing that I really wanted to read to you guys is not in here yet. A little annoyed by that, but anyway. It is time for the bonus episode of Database Reading. I have no idea how long this is going to be, but it is going to be long. Alright, let's start with AAA Class Encryption. It is a designation given to areas requiring the highest levels of restricted access. As one of the highest classified components of the project Zohar, KOS-MOS falls under this designation. KOS-MOS's importance to the project is evident in Junior's comment that the only other entities with that class of restriction would be the Federation government's motherframe or the UMN operating system. Absolute coordinates. Spatial coordinate values based on the supersphere structure of the universe. AEGS, short for Anti-Gnosis Weapon System, a name used to describe all weapon systems designed to fight the Gnosis, not all of which came in humanoid forms. The AEGS were substantially downscaled in size to better respond to the Gnosis' sudden attacks, and are roughly equivalent in weight to a large automobile. Their primary power source, called the transmit generator, does not contain any fuel or energy conversion device. All energy is transmitted directly to these generators from the mothership or base station. Thus, the term generator is not appropriate for these systems. Similarly, the propellant used for the AEGS for locomotion are also continuously provided by the mothership or base, so AEGS can in effect run indefinitely as long as they remain within the area of influence. AEGS 2. AEGS come in various shapes which are determined by their function. Federation military standard issue AEGS are all fitted with a standardized interchangeable cockpit module. By exchanging their limbs, weapons, and armor, they can be modified to adapt to various situations and environments. Sounds kind of like the Ace Tavalises from Nadeshko. Vector Industries AEGS are not mass-produced, but test models intended for eventual distribution to civilian consumers. Thus, only government special ops units and certain divisions of the military have access to them. The AEGS used on board the Durandal were also vector-made models obtained via the same channels. Alan Ridgely, born TC 4743, age 24 years old. Assistant Chief Engineer of the KOS-MOS Project General Operations System Research Center, Vector Industries' first R&D Division. Upon graduation from the University of Bormio, he joined Vector's first R&D Division. Although he is 2 years older than Shion, Alan is her junior by 1 year in the corporate hierarchy of Vector. He apparently comes from a wealthy family, but he does not share details of his background with anyone. Hobby, fishing. All part of the plan from the very beginning. Ziggy voices his suspicion that even if he had successfully rescued Momo, arrangements were already in place to countermand his actions. The details of this counterplan include broadcasting images from the Woglinde the moment Momo was handed over to the Miltian state government or any of its affiliated organizations, and the seizure of Momo by her erstwhile captors. Indeed, the incident involving Momo is closely linked to the events surrounding the Zohar emulator. Judging from the fact that Margulies' Plan 31 and Plan 401 are interlinked, Ziggy's speculations seem fairly accurate for the most part. Amplifier, a device used by warships to amplify the Hilbert Effect generated by the 100 series observational units. It has a secondary function as an omnidirectional broadcaster as well. However, due to broadcast limitations, coverage is limited to a 100-kilometer radius, it is necessary for several ships to use their systems cooperatively during battles. This device runs anywhere between 10 to several hundred tons, so only large vessels or cities have them. All Federation fleet warships built after TC 4766 have them pre-installed as part of their standard equipment. The Woglinde also had an amplifier on board, but due to the lack of complementary 100 series observational units, it suffered tremendous damage during battle. Android, an artificial humanoid lifeform. The first recognized use of the term android was in Tomorrow's Eve, a novel by someone whose name I'm going to butcher, Villiers de L'Isle Adam, 1838 to 1889, to describe the artificial woman Hadley. During the game, a character comments it's hard to believe they're making an android in this day and age. However, he fails to recognize the fact that Realians, whose biological structure is nearly identical to that of humans, can also be categorized as androids. In fact, this scene is a great illustration of Vector's technological prowess. In an age where simulated AI, which rely on spontaneous growth of networks, have become the norm, Vector continues to pursue the elusive goal of creating a completely man-made AI. Archetype. According to Jungian psychology, an image from the collective unconscious, an inherited memory represented in the minds of a universal symbol and observed in dreams and myths. The in-game reference is to the KOS-MOS prototype Kevin designed. Atalia, a planetary member of the Galaxy Federation. It is located in close proximity to the area in which the Woglinde disaster occurred and functions as a relay point for the transfer column to Senir. Attract Inhibitor, a device used to inhibit the Zohar emulator's functions. In biochemistry, an inhibitor indicates a substance used to block enzymatic functions. I got a lot of these, so I'm going to be reading them pretty fast. Feel free to pause and read them yourself if I'm going too fast. Auto mode, an operational mode which relies on independent decision-making. In this case, the term refers to KOS-MOS's ability to process data captured by her sensors, reach her own conclusions based on that information, and act on them. Autonomous state. The Galaxy Federation is comprised of approximately 500,000 autonomous state governments. Each autonomous state, divided according to planetary systems, has its own administrative and law enforcement agencies, but the Federation government's laws take precedence over them all. Autotech Terminal, an unmanned battlecraft used by the UTIC organization. Each individual terminal is jump-capable and carries approximately 10 small remotely operated weapons units in a rear compartment. Battle in hyperspace. If an object comes in contact with the inner boundary of hyperspace, the column wall, it disintegrates into subatomic particles. Matthews was referring to this danger when engaging in combat inside such a high-risk environment. Betty, a specimen of a transformed Gnosis in the Kukai Foundation's possession. She was named Betty for the letter B monogrammed onto her personal effects. Binding, a locking mechanism used to physically restrain KOS-MOS, located inside the maintenance unit. Black box, a term used for objects whose contents are unknown. The in-game references to KOS-MOS's central components and their respective software. Book refers to a book printed on paper, an antique in this time period. Bookworm, an insult directed at people who spend all their time reading. Shion's brother, however, hardly seems to be just an average bookworm. Unfortunately, we don't get to find that out in this game. Bormio University, one of the best educational institutions in the Galaxy Federation. It is a technological institution, and many Vector employees are graduates of this university, including Alan. Cage Partition. Data which forms the essence of KOS-MOS's being is stored within these section areas of her main database. Captain Lapis Roman. Born TC 4738, age 29 years old. A captain within the Galaxy Federation Military Special Operations Command Intelligence Unit. Good God, could you get a longer name? She works for Helmer, the representatives of the Second Mission government. Captain Moriyama, born TC 4727, age 47, so many sevens, age 40 years old, captain of the space cruiser Woglinde. Loyal to his mission, he is also quite generous and understanding towards his subordinates, who all trust him. Cargo weight. Tolls for the UMN transfer gate are determined by the total weight of the matter to be moved and the distance it will travel. Each class of cargo or passenger vessel has an assigned weight limit. The amount by which the Elsa was over its weight limit certainly cannot be attributed entirely to the addition of Shion and her party. The speculation is that the Elsa contained salvaged wreckage that was smuggled at one point or another. Chaos. Born, unknown. Age, unknown. A slender young boy, his perpetually melancholic expression, as well as the depth and scope of his conversations, give rise to the impression that he hails from a higher plane of existence. As he volunteers no information whatsoever about his past other than his name, everything about him, including whether he even has any memory of his past, is unknown. His relationship with Matthews and the crew appears to go back for quite some time, and they all respect him highly. His translucent blue eyes and silver hair are particularly notable features. Charter flight. Cherenkov mentioned going to search for one at the dock colony when Hammer asked where he was going. He was most likely searching for a vessel that would take him directly from the dock colony to his destination, in this case a facility associated with the UTIC organization. Trenkov, born TC 4731, age 36 years old, a commander of the Federation Marine Corps and second in command of the battle cruiser Woglinde. There is more to this man than meets the eye. Commercial model, a mass-produced product targeted for the general consumer, as opposed to those intended for the military or law enforcement agencies. This categorical distinction is often seen in firearms, where the military and law enforcement agency models do not differ greatly except for modifications that allow disabling of the full auto switch or limiting the number of rounds in the cartridge. During the story, an operator comments even their commercial models differ greatly between those that have seen action and those that haven't. What she means is that Vector must be trying to boost the appeal of the commercial model, KOS-MOS, to consumers by building its reputation as a military model first. I thought they were talking about the Realians. Okay. Condenser, the in-game reference to a device used by KOS-MOS to store the energy she requires to function. Due to the fact that KOS-MOS's current setup was for simulated battle, her condenser is also a test version. 2nd Division on 2nd Militia is apparently developing a working model of this item. Congestion, a condition in which communication lines are busy due to excess traffic. Connection gear, a PDA often used by Xi'an and the others. When activated, a holographic monitor and keyboard appear. That would be really handy. Its capabilities can be further expanded via downloads of various plugins. Best thought of as an advanced version of a PC or a wireless phone. Constantly make sure I watch what I'm thinking. When telepaths converse with their minds, they must maintain a barrier so that subconscious thoughts are not unintentionally divulged to one another. I think that was Junior talking about Guinan. Counselor, a specialized doctor responsible for maintaining the physical and mental health of Realians. The standards for qualification in this field are higher than other medical professions. Therefore, it is one of the more challenging occupations. However, the unabated high demand for counselors has resulted in a proliferation of temporary maintenance stations for Realians. Most counselors work in the companies which manufacture Realians. Counterterrorism. The literal translation is anti-terrorism. 100 years ago, Ziggy was a member of the 1,875th Special Ops Command Detachment of the Federation Police Bureau, a unit which specialized in counterterrorism. Creator and creation refers to the creator and all life created by it, God and man, man and Realian. Curry, one of Xi'an's culinary specialties. A reaction by an American game fan who saw the scene at a recent game show was, "What the hell are they eating?" Alas, culinary cultural differences. Cyborg, a living organism which possesses artificial organs, an obsolete technology once popular in the age before nano and Realian technologies emerged. I do like that they put some bits like this in to some of these entries, like the Curry one. DigB, short for Digitalis Beta, read as Digibeta. I think it was read as DigB in the game, but okay. A plant of the genus Digitalis, which is native to southern Europe. Although its leaves can be dried and used as a potent cardiotonic, it is also extremely poisonous. When ingested in quantities above a safe dosage, it can induce coma. Whether DigB is an extract of the Digitalis plant or an entirely different substance with the same name is unknown. Direct approach. A process which entails disengaging the VR-2000, the conduit that connects the perspectives of two individuals, and transferring one's consciousness directly into the encephalon of the other. This act of directly entering another individual's realm of consciousness can inadvertently cause one to lose their own sense of self, also known as diving. Director. This is the guy that Xi'an was yelling at. Born TC-4726, age 41 years old, the director of Federation's 1st R&D Division and Xi'an's immediate superior. Although he appears to be a simple, easygoing person, as a head of an entire division, rumor has it that he is quite sharp and competent. Dme Addiction, an addiction which results from the consumption of Realian body tissue. The blood vessels carry the ingested tissue, mainly from the central nervous system, to the brain, which results in neural structural changes. The physical and mental states are then altered, but occasionally this results in death when an allergic reaction occurs. Once the brain has undergone an alteration, the addict must continue to consume new Realian tissue to avoid withdrawal symptoms, thus necessitating a drug-dependent intervention. There is, as of yet, no complete cure since the consumed Realian tissue grows and mutates along with the host's neural networks. In some corners of the galaxy beyond the reaches of the Federation's control, there is an active black market for Realian tissue as a new form of recreational narcotics. The external symptoms of this addiction include hardening and cornification of the skin. Don't forget to take your meds, a phrase spoken by Trenkov's wife. She refers to the medication he requires to maintain the effects of a personality corrective procedure. Apparently, individuals who have undergone this procedure require supervision, as evinced from her comment, "I'm the one who will be held responsible." Dragon Skull, a multi-purpose railgun capable of firing various types of ammunition. KOS-MOS used this gun to fire a signal transmitter to notify Vector headquarters of the Gnosis' transfer coordinates. DSSS, short for Double Slot Sensory System. A device developed by Vector Industries used to detect Gnosis in the imaginary realm. It consists of a double-slit camera lens mounted on the sensory area of an eggs or other fighter craft. The military eggs have them mounted on the chest, while the Vector models have them on the waist. The concept behind this device is similar to that of the double-slit light interference experiment, often used in quantum physics. Dual-stage protection, something to do with the central nervous system of Realians, but details are currently unknown. Dummy Protocol, a network protocol used to connect KOS-MOS's perspective to that of the operator via the VR2000. Since KOS-MOS is a standalone unit and does not require external feeds, this protocol is used only when KOS-MOS is shut down. Durandal, a 4,000-meter class... Wow. That's even larger than the Jupitris. A 4,000-meter class heavy armor battlecruiser owned by the Kukai Foundation. It is designed to dock with the Federation's headquarters, a free-orbiting colony. Once docked, it functions as the colony's main propulsion system. Elsa. Length 166 meters, weight 8,400 tons. That's pretty big. A Lohengrin-class high-velocity interstellar cruiser. Formerly a luxury vessel owned by a criminal organization, it was converted into a cargo ship by Captain Matthews and used as part of the Kukai Foundation's fleet. Although not apparent from the outside, Matthews made quite a few modifications, such as the installation of hidden compartments to stow unlicensed weapons. He also upgraded the propulsion system to the latest logic propulsion device, making it the fastest ship in the galaxy, according to Tony. The name Elsa comes from the heroine of Wagner's opera Lohengrin 1850. Emergency Federal Charter. Under normal circumstances, it is a violation of Federation law for anyone, including the Federation fleet, to engage in military operations within an autonomous state's territory, without prior notification and consent of the state government. However, this charter allows for exemptions from such laws during certain predefined states of emergency. The announcement in the story, "The deployment is in accordance with the Federation Emergency Powers Act," refers to the invocation of this very charter. Emergency Level 3. Denotes Level 3 of the Emergency Readiness System. Judging from the fact that all lines of communication were allocated to the CIC Combat Intelligence Center, this emergency level is apparently invoked during Gnosis encounters. Emergency Override Code. Secret codes used to control a Realian's emotions or the actions that result from them. These codes are easily executable via connection gear. However, due to the power they exert over Realians, whose basic human rights are legally recognized, the use of these codes is limited to emergency-only situations. Only members of Vector's 3rd R&D division and a limited number of other employees know of their existence. Emulator. Hardware or software which mimics the behavior of other computer operating systems. Rather ironic considering I'm playing this on an emulator right now. The in-game references to the Zohar emulators. What emulating a Zohar actually amounts to, nor the exact purpose of the emulators, is as of yet unknown. Encephalon. The word for brain in the Greek language. The in-game references to the simulated environment built inside KOS-MOS's main network. Environmental bug. Another technological legacy of the late Joachim Mizrahi, these nanomachines are used to maintain the quality of the conditions within an enclosed area. EPR paradox. A paradoxical theory presented in 1935 by Albert Einstein, Boris Podolsky, and Nathan Rosenberg. Einstein-Rosen bridge, I think that's what it's referring to, in support of their argument that quantum mechanics still falls short in its explanation of reality. I'm by no means a quantum physics expert, so I know these things by passing. That's about it. A simple theoretical experiment to illustrate this paradox consists of a particle decaying into two identical particles. Because the internal angular momentum or spin of the particle must be conserved, the two decaying particles will have two opposing spins. As these particles decay, they are launched in opposite directions. When the distance between the two particles reaches a great distance, say several light years, the spin of one of the particles is measured. At the precise moment the spin of one particle is determined, the spin of the other can be determined to be in the opposite direction because the two spins must equal zero. Herein lies the paradox, since quantum mechanics dictates that the intrinsic property of an entity cannot be determined until it is actually measured. By determining the spin of the second particle several light years away without measuring it, the experiment would introduce the existence of some strange force that can transmit the information of the first particle's spin to the second particle faster than the speed of light, a force that cannot be explained by quantum mechanics. I should actually look up to see if that's been further tested lately. EPR radar. Radar which utilizes the EPR paradox to overcome limits imposed by the speed of light. Its effective range is thousands of light years across. Ether. Short for a special theory of rudimentary. Oh, English, why are you so hilarious? a generic term to denote various types of special powers. It encompasses everything from paranormal abilities to medical treatments using nanomachines, as well as the ability to control spatial dimensions using transference technology. The ether skills used by Xion, KOS-MOS, Ziggy, and Momo can be categorized into two types: those using applied transference technology or special skills which use nanomachines. In real life, ether is a hypothetical medium with special light conductive characteristics which is believed to fill air and space. Executive Committee. The central governing body of the Galaxy Federation is comprised of representatives from all member systems. A conference of the highest level to determine the course of the Federation, it is referred to as the Executive Committee or Executive Committee Assembly. The 24 Upper Council members are the central figures in these conferences. Executive Committee Director. A title given to the head of the Executive Committee. Since Federation law grants the person in this position enormous influence over all federal policy making, he or she must be elected to the seat by a majority vote from the entire Federation government. Wilhelm, CEO of Vector Industries, served in this post until several years ago. Factory Loaded refers to certain features that are part of the original spec for products shipped directly from the factory. When Realians are shipped out of the factory, they have pre-installed security measures so that subsequent maintenance can only be done at properly equipped facilities or by qualified individuals. This is to prevent the use of Realians in criminal acts. FAE, Fuel Air Explosive. Conventional FAEs disperse a cloud of fuel which is then ignited once it reaches the intended coverage, resulting in a powerful explosion. Those in close proximity to this explosion will either be flattened by the massive pressure wave, incinerated by the extremely high heat, or suffer the effects of rapid decompression caused by the updraft of superheated air, mainly suffocation and internal hemorrhage. The largest weapon of this type has a range with a radius of several kilometers. Although the FAE used by the Gnosis is smaller, it appears to have the same effects. However, the substance used as fuel is unknown. Here, by the way, is another mystery. Since Virgil was inside an eggs, his survival can be explained, but how could Xion, who is totally unprotected, come out unscathed? It appears that Xion is quite a bit tougher than she looks. Well, she can punch down enemies pretty well, so yeah, seems accurate. Federation Assembly. A Galaxy Federation Assembly comprised of representatives from nearly 500,000 autonomous states. The Assembly Hall is located on the capital planet of 5th Jerusalem. However, many representatives choose to participate via the FTL, faster-than-light, UMN connection. Different assemblies are held based on the topics of discussion. The assembly which discusses the situation at Miltia is held regularly and involves all autonomous state representatives. The Executive Committee assembled is responsible for determining vital pieces on a federal level. Federation Fleet. The Galaxy Federation's armed fleet. The Navy and Space Marines are combined to form the Federation Space Force, and distinctions between the branches are minimized, although some traditions still linger within certain units. The fleets regularly deployed on space missions are comprised of the Space Marines and the Navy, with the occasional inclusion of the Special Operations Fleet. Federation Police, short for Galaxy Federation Police Force. If only Ziggy's partners, oh god. I am completely blanking on Tenchi Moyu. Oh well. It'll come to me eventually, probably after I'm done with this episode. I was gonna make a joke, but oh well. Their function and organizational structure is basically the same as the police force in our time, but following this transition of human habitation to outer space, a specialized unit was created. The Special Operations Command Detachment, of which Ziggy was a member in the past, specialized in anti-terrorist operations, as well as the protection of rescued VIPs. 5th Jerusalem, the capital planet of the Galaxy Federation, and seat of the central legislative, judicial, and administrative agencies. The headquarters of the SOCE is also located here. Its name originated from the fact that it was the 5th planetary capital of the Galaxy Federation. Guinan Kukai. Born TC 4741, age 26 years old, the chairman of the Kukai Foundation, a special foundation based in Miltia, an autonomous member state of the Galaxy Federation. With black hair and deep green eyes, he shares some semblance? Yeah, I guess so. To Junior. He has a gentle personality and is well respected both within and outside of the Foundation. He is listed as the first son and heir to the industrialist Soze Kukai. Kaiser Sose? Gate jump, the act of entering hyperspace. The process involves transitioning from normal space into warp space, also known as a warp in. Gate out, the act of exiting hyperspace. The process involves transitioning out of warp space and back into normal space, also known as a warp out. Gedalia, an autonomous state within the Galaxy Federation, headquarters of the fleet which surrounded the Kukai Foundation. An individual affiliated with the UTIC organization holds a position of power here. Generator. The in-game reference is to the ELSA's main engine. Geodesic Structure. Geodesic domes were invented by the engineer-mathematician Richard Buckminster Fuller and patented in 1951 as a means to provide efficient housing structures using fewer resources. This name is used to describe the visual representation of a basic UMN structure since it resembles the shape of a geodesic dome. GFG. Galaxy Federation Government. An interplanetary republic comprised of approximately 500,000 planets. Each planetary system maintains autonomous rule within the framework of Federation law. Its planetary capital is 5th Jerusalem. Gnosis. Entities shrouded in mystery, of which the only known attribute is their hostility toward mankind. Gnosis exist in a unique dimension, separate from the physical plane. Therefore, it is normally impossible to come into contact with them. Oh, so they're ethereal. Oh, okay. Due to the variations in external appearance, the standard practice is to name them after mythical creatures. Hammer. Born 4740, age 27 years old, not a mouse. Creature. Thingy. Navigator on the passenger cargo ship Elsa. He may not look it, but he was once revered as a brilliant hacker in his teens. However, he got in way over his head when he hacked into a criminal organization's database, and he has been on the run since then. He was rescued by Matthews, and the two have worked together ever since. He knows Tony, the pilot, since childhood. Although he may be a clown, he is an excellent navigator and engineer. Headgear. The object thrown at Trenkov by his wife. A sensory linkage device using the UMN as a conduit, it provides virtual reality experiences at home. It is similar to the goggles used by Shion and her team for KOS-MOS's maintenance. The phrase, "I can get all the love I need with this," refers to her affair with another man via the headgear. I actually expected it more to be just virtual porn. That, combined with the fact that she applied for self-cloning, indicates that she does not seek direct contact with another individual in any way. Regardless, our hearts go out to poor Trenkov, who is simply used and abused. Well, kind of. I mean, kind of that our hearts go out to him. Helmer, born TC 4711. Age 56 years old, the representative of the current autonomous Miltian state government, a former military officer. He is a sympathetic ally of Junior and Guinan, and he was partially responsible for the establishment of the Kukai Foundation. He fears the UTIC organization's rise in power and the awakening of Udu, which is also not in the database just yet. Hilbert Effect, a device which generates a finitely bound realm, a sensory realm to be exact, to enable an intersection with the imaginary realm. There are specific wave energies that exist in both the realms of real numbers and imaginary numbers. This device interprets such wave energies into a common language, thereby allowing the physical realm to interact with the imaginary realm, the realm of Planck scales. What this means, then, is that the gnosis, which exists outside of our physical laws, can effectively be dealt with using a physical real-world approach. Hoodlums. The group of hoodlums who confront Trenkov at the dock colony. It is uncertain whether they resented soldiers in particular, or if they were simply looking for a fight. Either way, all of them got the daylights beaten out of them by an out-of-control Trenkov. Hyperspace. A realm of alternate space that vessels pass through during a gate jump. It is shaped like a tube and is thought to be similar in nature to what are commonly known as wormholes. Identity diffusion. One of the psychological outcomes of adolescence, as proposed by developmental psychologist Erik Erikson. A state in which an individual has an incomplete sense of self, a result of the inability to resolve identity conflicts during adolescence. Interconnection. Mutual interaction. The in-game reference is to the act of establishing a non-local connection using the VR-2000. This method frees data transference from the limitations of physics, allowing an instantaneous exchange of data across distances millions of light years apart. It utilizes the EPR paradox, which constitutes the heart of the UMN. Interlink. An exchange of thought between two individuals who are physically connected via an apparatus. This is normally achieved by tapping into the UMN network via a control device implanted inside the body. Isolation area. A holding area within the Durandal used to quarantine the Zohar. Since the Zohar emulators emit a certain wavelength of energy that attract the Gnosis, all recovered emulators are kept in a specialized protective container. It was very dark, and the wind. L. Frank Baum's The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, 1900. Oh, okay. Jin. Born TC-4732, age 35 years old. His full name is Jin Uzuki, and he is Shion's older brother, related by blood. It is difficult to discern his characteristics from just the visuals, but he does appear to be hiding something behind that goofy look. He is an expert swordsman. Maybe. Unfortunately, his moment to shine will not arrive until the next episode. Our apologies to those of you who are just dying to see him in action. Joachim Mizrahi. Born TC-4701, age 52 years old at time of death. An advocate of the 100 series observational units and essentially Momo's father. A scientist renowned for his genius, he died in TC-4753, the year the Miltian conflict began. The Federation benefited greatly from his contributions, as his numerous research findings played a large part in the Federation's growth. He was also Yuli Mizrahi's former husband. Did she marry young and he married old? Guess we'll find out. Guinan Kukai Jr., director of the Kukai Foundation. His hobby is collecting ancient text and literature, as well as ancient, relative to his time period, weapons. The official records state that he was born in TC 4755 and is the adopted son of Guinan Kukai. Note the emphasis on the official records state that. Yuli Mizrahi. Born TC 4723, age 44 years old. One of the top members of the Galaxy Federation Subcommittee on Close Encounters and widow of the late Joachim Mizrahi. In TC 4754, her alarm over the increase in Gnosis phenomenon prompted her to form the SOCE. She is the current legal guardian of Momo, one of the 100 series observational units which she developed in conjunction with her late husband Joachim. Her maiden name is Niwashiro. Keltia, a planetary member of the Galaxy Federation and the location of the Seraphim Sisters concert. Kindling. When bursts of electrical charges occur repeatedly in the brain and neural impulses pass through the limbic system repetitively, the result is a permanent acceleration of certain neural connections or the opening of entirely new neural paths. Kindling is any process that permanently alters the inner emotional state of being of the host. Kirschwasser. The word for cherry brandy in the German language. An observational realian created by Joachim Mizrahi for the purpose of collecting data for the prototype Momo. KOS-MOS, an armored female android developed by the interstellar conglomerate Vector Industries. She is comprised entirely of mechanical parts, a rarity in an age of advanced realian technology. The basic tenet to which she adheres to is based on logic, probability, and completion of her mission above all else. She also unconditionally protects Shion, her creator. She is equipped with a simulated personality OS to aid in communication, and though her speech conveys her role as an android in service to humans, her tendency to put logic and probability first makes her quite difficult to manage at times. The name KOS-MOS is a general acronym to denote an anti-Gnosis tactical system. It stands for KOS-MOS Obey Strategic Multiple Operation Systems. You know, having the name of the unit, the acronym as part of the name itself, you know, her name is KOS-MOS, which is an acronym that starts with KOS-MOS, kind of defeats the purpose. KOS-MOS's main equipment from 2nd Division. The equipment KOS-MOS would have when ready for deployment. Since the military brass was getting impatient with the slow pace of development, Alan thought to stave off their worries by handing Shion a list of equipment which 2nd Division provided. Kukai Foundation, a unique foundation whose membership extends to both Matthews and his crew. Its headquarters is located on a free orbiting space colony. Kukai Foundation 2. The Kukai Foundation was a special organization established soon after the end of the Miltian conflict, and its sole purpose was to subjugate the UTIC organization. Since then, most of its military forces were decommissioned, and the other divisions branched off into independent civilian corporations, thus forming the basis of the Foundation's present structure. The fact that Vector is one of its primary investors explains why the lion's share of the equipment installed on board the Durandal is made by Vector. Lake Turkana, a lake located at the northern tip of Kenya, which covers an area 7,000 square kilometers. Its maximum depth is 73 meters. Many ancient hominid fossil discoveries were made at this site, also known as Lake Rudolph. Lieutenant Commander. Born TC 4734, age 33 years old, a member of the UTIC organization and a subordinate of Trenkov's. He infiltrated the Woglinde in order to take possession of the Zohar. He tends to wear his heart on his sleeve, but he is very conscientious of his duties and quite the stickler for regulations and time. He has an older brother whom he was separated from at birth. Was that Vandercom? Maybe? Lieutenant Commander Vanderkamp, a lieutenant commander in the UTIC organization. Rumor has it that he was on board the Woglinde to secure the Zohar. Whether he was the same officer who reprimanded Xi'an is, as of yet, unknown. Huh. I don't know. Anyway. Life pod. A life preservation craft used in emergencies. So Woglinde was equipped with many of these life pods, but by the time Xi'an and Alan escaped, only one remained. Maximum occupancy is limited to 2, which seems like a bad way to handle a life pod on a very large ship like that, and the life support system can run for 500 hours. However, judging from the levels of remaining oxygen, it seems that Xi'an's pod has already had problems on or before takeoff. The Life Recycling Act. Introduced as a bill in TC 4590, it passed with unusual speed and was voted into law the following year in 4591. In the age when cyborg technology was at its peak, human resources were dwindling, and this law was intended for effective utilization of those resources. However, with time, the interpretation of the law expanded to condone human cloning, genetic and neural engineering, and other procedures formerly considered to be off-limits. Various corporate interests are suspected to be behind this development. This law remained in effect for 160 years until it was revoked in TC 4754. Life Recycling Variant, a term which encompasses individuals or their descendants who have had their DNA, neural structure, or other biological components heavily modified. Some may display extraordinary physical abilities or superhuman powers, depending on the level of modification, but on the other hand, many suffer from adverse mental effects. In the case of Trenkov, he was part of a super soldier program developed by a certain branch of the military. He was created via artificial insemination and equipped with several modifications before being sent off to battle. Link Experiment. An experiment led by Trenkov to activate the Zohar emulator. The word link indicates that the procedure entails connecting the Zohar with another entity. I would also point out that this kind of sounds a little bit like what happened with Ramses. Lion's Heart. I don't even remember. Oh, that's right. Okay. An auction house that deals with ancient artwork and weapons obtained through the UMN network. That's where Guinan got the Makarov for Junior. Logic Drive. A logic propulsion device. A new type of propulsion system which replaced the traditional reactionary propulsion systems. It works by reconfiguring the spatial phase around its direction of travel. Substantial amounts of energy are needed to power the system, but since the energy source is relatively easy to compact, the system is being considered for use in fleets with transfer-type generators as well as eggs. Lost Jerusalem, the home world of mankind, which was lost thousands of years ago, Earth. In this age, not even its actual location is known. LPS, short for Local Positioning System, a system which monitors the location and physical status of each crew member within a vessel, and reports that information to the CIC, Command Intelligence Center. The LPS on board the Woglinde, which had a capacity well over the total amount of data gathered, appears to have been overwhelmed by incessant use of the DSSS by the eggs. Without the support of the 100 series observational units for search and adherence, the eggs must calculate the timing of their interference for the Gnosis on their own. Thus, high demands on the DSSS apparently overloaded the CIC mainframe, which constantly backs up the DSSS of every eggs. Maintenance Lab, a room equipped for eggs maintenance. On board the Elsa, a room in the corner of the eggs hangar functions as a maintenance lab. KOS-MOS ran a bypass from the co-generator to this room where her maintenance unit was located. Maintenance Unit, a mobile unit used for regular maintenance on KOS-MOS. It also executes system checks when she is shut down. Margulis. Born TC 4723, age 44 years old. One of the key figures of the UTIC organization and commander of Pleroma, one of the primary bases. He is intricately connected to both the incident which occurred 14 years ago and the Miltian conflict. He appears to be a former soldier, judging from his strong physique and the sword scar running across his cheek. A master swordsman with a cold, merciless personality. I wonder if we'll find out more about that later. Marienkind. From Grimm's Marienkind, Mary's Child, a story about a girl who received from the Virgin Mary the keys to the 13 doors in heaven. Marking on the forehead. A mark that appeared on Trenkov's forehead. This marking is given to every individual who has undergone the personality corrective procedure. The mark is made by modifying the inner skin at a molecular level, then connecting that area with part of the brain that was corrected. Therefore, it appears when the recipient's emotions rise beyond a certain threshold. Ah, well, that explains that. Should have looked at this earlier. Mary, born TC 4747, age 20 years old. Chief of the Kukai Foundation's Strategy Division. She supports Junior and Guinan and commands the Durandal along with her older sister Shelley. Although she was born in Miltia, she speaks with an unknown planetary accent, aka a southern accent. She is the life of the party within the Foundation. Her full name is Mary Godwin. She adopted that surname after being rescued by the Foundation. Matthews, born TC 4727. There are so many sevens in this. Age 40 years old, captain of the passenger cargo ship Elsa. A chronic spender, he is constantly in debt. In particular, he owes a large sum to the Kukai Foundation, and his beautiful ship was made into collateral. After retiring, he worked as a junk trader, collecting and selling debris from around the universe. But in recent years, he works mainly for the Kukai Foundation. He met Chaos several years before the beginning of this episode, and they have been traveling together since. Memorial service refers to the Buddhist practice of holding a memorial for the deceased every 7 days for 49 days, as well as the services given during the anniversary of the deceased. Xian's brother Jin has apparently read about this Buddhist tradition in a book and was attempting to recreate it, but it is uncertain whether he is in fact a practicing Buddhist. We think not. Miltia, the planet where the war that came to be known as the Miltian conflict took place. Miltia is also Xian's birthplace. Miltian Charter, a body of Federation laws enacted after the Miltian conflict. Miltian conflict, a war constantly referred to throughout the episode. The outbreak of hostilities began 14 years ago and ultimately dragged the entire Federation into it. The name originated from the fact that the territory of Miltia, where Xian was born, was the site of the most vicious battles. As for what exactly happened in Miltia at the time, that story will have to wait. Of course it will. Miyuki, born TC 4747. See, so many sevens! Age 20 years old, a systems programmer at Vector's first R&D division. I thought she was in the second division. She's a younger colleague of Xian's and quite a mechanical otaku. She submits patent applications as a hobby and constantly creates new inventions using Xian and the others as guinea pigs. As her supervisor, Xian is plagued by her constant expense authorization requests. Her full name is Miyuki Itsumi, and in a way, she is a woman very true to her ambitions. Mizrahi Cerebral Sciences Research Center. The research institute where Joachim Mizrahi worked as a chief scientist before the UTIC organization was established. It is a unique institute which combines neuroscience with phenomenology, and aside from the fact that it was sponsored by Vector Industries, there's very little known about it. Vector has its hands in everything, doesn't it? Momo, short for Multiple Observation Mimetic Organicus. What was organism? Whatever. Activation date unknown. She is a 100 series prototype Realian designed to observe and contact the Gnosis, beings that can only be detected by a special sense. She was created by Joachim Mizrahi, and she resembles his deceased daughter, Sakura Mizrahi. Her outward appearance is that of a 12-year-old. Oh, we have not heard about Sakura before. MT field. The MT field of the temporal lobe. Damage to this area of the brain results in a condition called motion blindness, in which the eye can see but cannot track the continuous motion of an object, such as a person who is running or a moving car. Instead, the objects in motion appear as a series of flash photography images. It is said that to individuals with this condition, a normal conversation is perceived as a teleconference call with very slow transmission speeds. Interesting. I need a drink. There we go. Hey, we're over halfway done. Mutations in genomes. A phrase implying that genomes, or hereditary information, will somehow get around all obstacles in order to pass itself on. MWS, short for Multiple Weapons System. A portable, multifunction weapons storage unit designed and built by Xian's younger colleague Miyuki. Contained within the unit are various types of weapons, including fighting knuckles, taser rods, and anti-gnosis beam launchers. It also has a built-in shield that utilizes spatial phase shifting, thus providing a high level of defensibility in addition to the offensive capability. The unit also contains a makeshift logic drive, which not only counterbalances but also enhances physical attacks. Thus, even the weakest individuals can go head-to-head with an armored tactical weapon, in theory. Nano Machine. Nano is the word for dwarf in the Greek language. 1 nanometer equals 1/1000th of a meter. The in-game reference is to atom-sized machines, which are used for everything from repairing body cells to terraforming. Many varieties of nanomachines exist for various purposes, and their components range from complex proteins to traditional mechanical parts. Nanomachines are used in recovery items and certain ether skills used by Shion and the other characters. Nanotreatment, medical treatment technique utilizing nanomachines. Nanotreatment of illness and injury in this world is about as common as our use of drugs. Momo tried to treat Trenkov's injuries with nanomachines capable of cellular restoration. However, Trenkov adamantly avoided this treatment for fear that it would trigger a violent reaction to the chemical which controls his emotions. Nataraja, an avatar of Shiva, represented as a dancing figure with many arms. It is of particular interest that this system is named after Shiva, who is also the god of creation and destruction. The system itself was designed by Kevin. Nero, the 5th Emperor of Rome. Nero is an angler in the Lake of Darkness. William Shakespeare, King Lear, 1605. Nexus 6. Wasn't Nexus 6 the replicants in Blade Runner? Serial number of the artificial dog that Ziggy gave to his stepson as a gift. His phrase, "I wanted to get you a real one," reveals how real purebred dogs were extremely rare in that age, and Ziggy, a policeman, could not possibly afford one. Hence, cheaper artificial dogs were popularized as substitutes. Nexus is the name of the company that manufactures these artificial dogs, and their lifespan exceeds well beyond 4 years. Notice of cloning procedure completion. A document which Trenkov's wife received from the Federation Health Department. Since the revocation of the Life Recycling Act, strict restrictions were placed on the process of cloning for personal reasons. After a lengthy application process, only those deemed physically and mentally sound, with a record of positive contributions to the Federation government, are granted this privilege. For Trenkov's wife, who has always avoided intimacy, both physical and emotional, with others, the method of cloning to leave behind descendants must have been a fairly natural decision. However, to Trenkov, who dreamed, or imagined that he dreamed, of experiencing a connection with others, her decision came as an unbearable blow, a negation of his very existence and purpose. He is very much like Ramses. Old Miltia, otherwise known as Miltia, an area in the galaxy closed off since the Miltian conflict 14 years ago. Pesh, French for peach. Pellegrini, born TC 4732, age 35 years old. Yay, not a 7 at the end. A female commander within the UTIC organization. She serves as Margulise's aide on Pleroma. Penfield mapping, a map of the brain which shows the distinct functional regions of the cerebral cortex. The in-game references to the digitized procedure which links Shion's cerebral regions to their respective regions in KOS-MOS. Personality Reconditioning Facility. The facility to which Trenkov was committed. Its purpose is to literally recondition an individual's personality by processes such as altering neural networks or placing implants that regulate hormone production. In this age, vicious criminals are subjected without exception to this procedure. Those that go through the procedure are returned to society after they successfully complete their re-education programs. I remember that from an episode of Babylon 5. Phenomena like this. Occasionally, Gnosis sightings have been recorded throughout history, but due to the small scale of attacks and minimal damage which resulted, most of these encounters were lost as unofficial reports. Joachim Mizrahi was one of the few scientists who focused and researched these Gnosis encounters. Photon Torpedo. Although called a Photon Torpedo, this weapon actually utilizes antimatter reactions. Matter and antimatter are isolated in a protective field that is disengaged right before reaching the target, releasing the destructive force of matter-antimatter reaction. The photon refers to the bright light given off by the protective field once it is launched. Due to the extreme difficulty in creating antimatter, the amount of reaction from one photon torpedo is minimal. Pieta, a central supercomputer owned by the Yuriev Institute. They, in turn, are a research facility built by another giant business conglomerate rivaling Vector, the Hyams Group. I think we'll learn a bit more about that eventually. Plan 31, codename for an order given to the UTIC organization's 474th Special Operations Fleet. It seems to refer to a certain action relating to the capture of the Zohar. We hope to resolve the mystery by the time Junior is introduced. Well, this was a while ago. Plan 401, codename for an order given by Margulies. This plan apparently entailed taking control of the Federation's military through political means rather than resorting to the UTIC organization's fleet. The goal of this plan was to surround Miltia with his fleet and usurp the vested rights of the planet. Planet Ariadne, a planetary member of the Galaxy Federation which vanished during the Zohar emulator experiment. It had a population of approximately 1.5 billion. An experimental laboratory owned by the UTIC organization was located here. It was also the home to Trenkov after his personality corrective procedure. Pleroma, one of the UTIC organization's operational bases. It is comprised of several linked asteroids and serves as Margulies' post. Pleroma. This term and concept can be found in both Jungian psychology and Gnostic doctrine. Although we will not reveal any answers at this point, it may be of interest to delve further into this concept. It may offer a glimpse of things to come in the future of Xenosaga, or it may provide some insights into the various themes that appear in the current story. Ooh. To look that up. PM, short for Pistolet Makarova, the gun which Guinan gave Jr. An automatic pistol made in the former USSR, it was issued to the Soviet Army in 1951, replacing the Tokarev TT-1933. It uses a 9x18mm round, which is slower and therefore packs less penetrating power than the older Tokarevs. It holds 8 rounds in the cartridge plus 1 in the chamber. The background story is that this gun, which Guinan acquired at an auction, was made by the former Soviet Union as a gift to a foreign VIP. A less-known fact, however, is that Junior had already purchased an SPP, I'm going to go put an N in there, an SPP-1 at another auction, unbeknownst to Guinan. I don't know how that references to anything, but oh well, whatever. Porter. The UMN acts as a recording medium, holding every incident and every phenomenon in this world as permanent records. Porters are agent-like AIs that exist in order to manage and preserve those records. Porters owned by the government-run UMN management agency usually manage an individual's information, whereas corporations usually have their own proprietary porters manage their company records. The term porter is an encompassing name for any AI that behaves autonomously within the network. For example, mail traffic is regulated by a type of AI called the mail porter. There are as many different functions for porters as there are business models practiced on the net. Post-war reparations, a policy for reparatory compensation established at the end of the Miltian conflict that caused a severe drain on all parties. However, many sectors from various autonomous states failed to benefit from these reparations, and after 14 years the issue is yet to be fully resolved. Power Loader, a humanoid machine used to carry heavy loads inside the Woglinde. It is standard-issue labor machinery used throughout the Federation. Some of them are equipped with a flamethrower on the right arm. I'm sure that won't come up at any point in the future. Premor walking, a technique used to detect traces of Zohar wave energies. The term is derived from a DNA sequence analysis technique. Procurator, an agent-like AI which extracts services from the UMN as requested by the user. A procurator is essential in order to navigate through the UMN's vast information network, and it manages most of the routine work related to the UMN in place of the user. For example, the task of sending and receiving mail is overseen by one type of AI called the mail porter. By having the procurator act as a go-between for the user and the mail porter, the user can send and receive email simply by instructing the procurator without having to deal with the mail porter. The environmental simulator and database can also be used via the procurator, though a specific plugin is necessary. Usually instructions to the procurator are given vocally, but some complex operations require the use of a keyboard. A smaller procurator resides within mobile units such as the connection gear. Vector's line of connection gear, the Rios series, also contains a procurator named Ange. Incidentally, Xion has replaced this procurator with another which she created, Bunny. Bunny! Yay, Bunny! Ram, a protrusion on the front of a vessel which breaches the walls of enemy ships. The Durandal has a holding area for troops at the very tip of its ram, enabling them to engage the enemy immediately after impact. Reactor room. The room where Woglinde's main propulsion systems are located, equivalent to an engine room. Realian, an artificial human. A wonder of molecular bioengineering, its biological composition comes in various forms based on need, from carbon-based duplicates of real humans to those based on silicon or liquid metal. Great, they're Terminators. Many of the Realians on board the Woglinde were made by Vector, and they are hybrid models with a carbon-silicon base. Since a Miltian conflict, the alteration of a Realian's emotions is no longer allowed. The only exceptions are for Realians in the military or other dangerous occupations, such as terraforming. Their basic rights equal those of humans and are recognized by law. However, due to the fact that their minds are initialized with a slight bias, all Realians tend to display similar personality traits. This bias is applied not only for the purpose of preventing criminal behavior by Realians, but also in consideration of humans who may feel threatened by their superiority, albeit only in certain specialized skills. Several companies manufacture Realians, but Vector makes the basic program, in other words, the central nervous system of all Realians. This program is essentially a black box, and any modification beyond regular maintenance and adjustments can only be performed by Vector. That's pretty handy. It's a good way to lock in a monopoly. Real mode, the procedure where data on the Gnosis is incorporated into a combat simulation. Recycler, individuals who salvage space wreckage to sell, sometimes after fixing them up, to brokers. Laws governing this type of activity vary from state to state, but in general it is considered illegal. Matthews and his crew engaged in recycling as a side business. Reload normally refers to the act of putting a new round of ammunition in a gun. Here it means replenishing the power source. Second Miltia, planetary capital of the current Miltian autonomous state government. The planet is 13,200 kilometers in diameter with a gravity ratio of 1.03. It was only recently terraformed, so it still has an abundance of forests. The atmosphere-generating nano machines within the ocean are still active, causing the planet to appear light green from space. Xi'an's parents' home is located here. Secondary equipment, part of KOS-MOS's combat equipment. It allows for the exchange of parts such as body frame and armor. Sellers, the man with motorized sunglasses with whom Margulis was discussing the Zohar and plans for the future, who was not actually named at the command center on Pleroma. His appearance and demeanor indicate that he is a scientist of some sort. The fact that he spoke with Margulis as an equal indicates that he is also a very high-ranking individual, but he is otherwise a mystery. And I do believe that his name is a reference to Peter Sellers. Sinir, a planetary member of the Galaxy Federation. Judging from what Trenkov said, there seems to be a facility on this planet linked to the UTIC organization. Seraphim Sisters, the object of Matthew's adoration. Their name suggests that they are a female vocal duo. And of course, a reference to the elements. Shelley, born TC 4745, age 22 years old. Yay, only 17. Aide to the chairman of the Kukai Foundation, she assists Junior and Guinan in running the foundation. She was once part of a group of people who were illegally owned by a pharmaceutical company that used them as guinea pigs. 12 years ago, Guinan rescued her along with Mary, and she has made her home in the Foundation ever since. Her full name is Shelley Godwin. Xi'an Uzuki, born TC 4745, age 22 years old. Hey, she's the same age as Shelley. Assigned to Vector Industries' first R&D division at the age of 18 in TC 4763. Her official title is Chief Engineer of the KOS-MOS Project, General Operation System Research Center, Vector Industries' first R&D division. Although 2 years younger than Alan, Xi'an is a year his senior in the corporate hierarchy of Vector. Although she appears clumsy at times, she is actually quite athletic. In particular, her high kicks are powerful enough to render a grown man unconscious. She apparently also wields a jujitsu-like technique passed on from her grandfather, but unfortunately the skill does not appear in this episode. Damn it! Sms Tracking Signal, short for Somatic Monitoring System. A monitoring system used by UTIC agents to track an individual, also useful for tracking somatic components of spells. SOCE, Subcommittee on Close Encounters, a panel of researchers convened by the Federation government in TC 4754 to counter the Gnosis phenomenon. While it is called a subcommittee, it has over 2,000 members representing government agencies, corporations, and various scientific fields. At its operational core are 7 members, each of whom holds high positions in the Federation. Yuli Mizrahi, Momo's creator, is one of the 7 members. Species Preservation Act. A law enacted in order to revive the human race, which had degenerated due to the harmful effects of the Life Recycling Act. The purpose behind this legislation was to preserve and propagate a pure breed of humans that was untouched by genetic engineering, cloning, or organ enhancements. It also strove to restore the original genetic code that had been altered by the Life Recycling Act. Due to the fact that enforcement is left to the discretion of each autonomous state, there is a pointed lack of standardization and effectiveness across a multitude of jurisdictions. Tactical Sim Lab refers to Vector's Combat Technology Research Laboratory. a division within Vector which evaluates all weapons created by the company for their wartime efficacy. In some cases, it also develops new technologies as well. It is separate from the other R&D divisions for practical reasons, and it is located on board the Dameron. Target Drone, a drone used as a target in battle simulations. Telepathy, an ability to converse via the transmission of thoughts only. Tessadora, one of the planetary members of the Galaxy Federation. Tokishi, born TC-4745, age 22 years old, a younger colleague of Alan. Tokishi joined Vector's first R&D division right after the incident in which KOS-MOS went out of control. He finds great satisfaction in giving his mentor Alan a hard time. Tony, born TC-4738, age 29 years old, pilot of the passenger cargo ship Elsa. Normally handsome and debonair, he completely changes when he's in the pilot seat. To his credit, though, he is in fact a brilliant pilot, having saved the Elsa from countless perils. Definitely a ladies' man. Too close to fire the cannons. In zero-gravity space warfare, a basic rule of engagement is to take into account the possibility of incurring damage to oneself via debris from the destroyed target. During the story, an officer exclaims we're too close to fire the cannons because the Gnosis were too close to the ship and could not be fired upon for fear of debris damaging the ship. Although it sure did look like they were firing those things with reckless abandon. Trade column. The UMN's columns are divided into separate routes according to their use. The trade column is a route used mainly by cargo and passenger vessels. During the story, Ziggy chose to navigate through this particular column in hopes that the heavy traffic will interfere with his pursuer's tracking systems. Apparently it did not. Transfer system. A material transport technique which utilizes a unique feature of the UMN. Its usage is fairly common in this age. However, transference of materials with amorphous network information, that is, living organisms, is considered virtually impossible. This is due to the serious impact such transference has on the actual information contained within these living networks, such as personality and biological functions. Transference of living organisms requires a protective shield, and due to the size of such shield-generating systems, it would in turn require the use of a vehicle, like a space vessel. This explains why Matthew's ship is both a passenger and cargo ship. Transfer wave. A signal emitted by the UTIC organization's Autotech terminals, which specify transfer coordinates. After infiltration of the Elsa, the Autotech began transferring its remote drones from outside the ship into various coordinates throughout the ship's interior. Since the drones were not transferred directly onto the bridge, it appears that the transfer wave only works within a certain range. Why the Autotech chose to take over the aft hangar is yet unknown. Well, probably wouldn't have fit anywhere else. 12 Apostles, the 12 followers of Jesus Christ. Type 7 Personality Corrective Procedure. A personality control procedure administered to Cherenkov. In this age, every violent criminal whose behavior is a result of brain abnormalities is given this procedure without exception. The procedure itself actually entails implanting a Nano Machine which suppresses emotional impulses into the brain. However, there are a few individuals that are not cured by this, and even more extreme procedures, Type 8 and Type 9, are available. Incidentally, the ratio of male to female recipients of this procedure is 8-2, an increase in the proportion of females from the current ratio of male to female violent criminals with abnormal impulses, which is 9-1. Type G Target Drone. Drones used as targets during simulated battles. They differ from ordinary ones in that they are programmed to emulate Gnosis. Uber-humans. During the heyday of the Life Recycling Act, many people opted to undergo artificial procedures to enhance physical abilities or to increase brain capacity. This term is used to describe those individuals or their descendants. Although Alan refers to them as mutants, these gifted individuals do not exhibit any external differences when compared to ordinary humans. Current Federation law prohibits any acts of discrimination against such people, yet feelings of hostility still abound in various corners of the galaxy. The Kukai Foundation not only protects these individuals, but also provides them with a means to support themselves. Ultra-wide-range Hilbert. The deployment of the Hilbert Effect over an extremely large area. Ordinarily, the range of KOS-MOS' Hilbert Effect is set to cover a radius of about 300,000 kilometers. However, when Xion witnessed the impending massive swarm of Gnosis, she decides to enlarge the effective range of the radius of several hundred astronomical units. See, I would have thought that 300,000 kilometers would have been an ultra-wide-range Hilbert Effect, but clearly I'd be wrong. UMN, short for Unus Mundus Network, and of course it's frequently called the UMN Network, meaning they're talking about the Unus Mundus Network. an informational system that spans the entire universe. Its non-locality is a large factor in its use in space warps and FTL, faster than light, communications. The term unus mundus, literally one world, was used by psychiatrist C.G. Jung to describe a state beyond this world where every contradiction in physics, like synchronicity and the EPR paradox, can be explained. A place where every relationship, such as that of the mind to mind or mind to matter, can also make sense. UMN Control Center, the UMN Transport Gate Management Facility located in 2nd Miltia. This and all facilities associated with the UMN come under the jurisdiction of the UMN Management Agency. As such, the UMN Management Agency virtually controls all information within the Galaxy Federation, making it a very influential agency within the central government. The agency relies on Vector to provide 98% of its facilities and resources, which kind of means that Vector is actually the one in charge of all the information. UMN Pulse, a navigational signal constantly being emitted from the UMN transfer column. Each column emits a different pulse, so one must receive the pulse from a column located at the destination, or the set of pulses from the columns located along the jump route during a gate jump. UMN Transfer Column. The UMN Transport Gate has relay points called columns located at certain intervals in hyperspace. These columns connect every transport gate in the galaxy to one another. It is similar to the connections within a neural network. Since each column has a limited area of influence, a gate jump cannot be performed from outside that area. UNP, short for UMN Phone, a type of wireless communication device used commonly in this time period. The connection gear, which Xion uses all the time, also comes with a communications function, but since connection gears are rather expensive, not everyone utilizes them. Xion also carries a UMN phone as a backup communication device, which is what the white bunny-shaped one that she left on her chair was. Since connection gear uses a special communications line reserved for the military, in situations where the central system of the CIC, Combat Intelligence Center, is congested, it is easier to get a connection via the UNP. The UTIC organization. I'm guessing that this is where URTV is supposed to be, which is what I was looking for. And Udu is probably up here. UTIC Organization. Official name, Unknown Territory Intervention and Creation Agency. An agency connected closely with the Miltian conflict, references to which are made throughout Episode 1. It was buried in obscurity for decades, but reappeared in TC 4767, which is when the story begins. An independent organization not associated with the Galaxy Federation, it nevertheless boasts a level of technology and military force that far surpass those of the Federation government or military. Its origins can be traced back to the Mizrahi Neuroscience Institute, which means that Joachim Mizrahi is the agency's founder. However, the connection between him and Margulis is yet unknown. V4 field, one of the visual fields of the brain. The human brain is said to contain 30 or more of these visual fields. Damage to both sides of the V4 visual field will result in complete color blindness. Variant. The central mainframe, Pieta, is made up of numerous processors. All of them, except for the main processor, are referred to as variants. Vector First R&D Division, referred to as First Division among Vector employees. Its origins date back to a joint venture by the government and private sector to manage the UMN. Although it now functions as a department within a corporation, it has retained its original title of division. After relegating the management of the UMN to the government, the division's primary function has been the development of various computer chips and supporting software for industrial supercomputer AIs. The KOS-MOS R&D project, to which Xion and her team are assigned to, sought to develop an emotively controlled OS. Vector Fleet Design Department, a section within Vector's second R&D division, which specializes in the construction of interstellar warships. The Woglinde also originated from here. Vector Industries, the largest business conglomerate in the Federation and an integral part of modern civilization. It is involved in the production and distribution of almost every product, from food and medicine, software and hardware, to communication and weapons. It has a multitude of divisions, of which the core components are the first, second, and third R&D divisions. Vector Industries has a very long history, and its presence dates back to the initial formation of the Federation. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Anaheim Electronics, although even more expansive. Vector's second R&D division, the division responsible for hardware development. Its duties include the development and production of Federation fleet vessels and eggs. Vector 3rd R&D Division. One of the 3 core R&D divisions of Vector Industries. Its sole purpose is to oversee the development, production, training, and distribution of Realians. Though her motives were unknown to others, Xion apparently requested a reassignment to this division. Violation of protocol. The records within KOS-MOS' subconscious are part of Vector's most highly classified information, and in the story, Alan declares that any unauthorized duplication of them is a clear violation of company regulations. Actually, the motive behind the duplication is to clear any suspicion towards the Foundation, of which Vector is a primary investor, and the Second Miltian government. Therefore, in light of the situation, it seems highly unlikely that permission for such would be withheld. The only requirement would be to censor any information that should be withheld from the public. This is not considered a falsification of records, and filter the record. However, Xion decided that the current situation qualifies as an emergency and took it upon herself to move forward without any pre-authorization. Wave Ride. This is what Zeta Gundam does when it re-enters the atmosphere. A piloting technique where a vessel's force field is intersected with the inner walls of hyperspace in order to obtain high velocity. This technique pushes the vessel to the very edge of hyperspace, therefore it requires extraordinary piloting skills. Weapons-grade Realian. A Realian specifically modified for combat. Their senses and physical abilities are better developed than those of regular Realians. They are also designed to operate for long periods of time in the battlefield, and their emotions have been modified so that fear or other feelings detrimental to combat will not surface. Although Realians in general are designed not to feel fear, there are occasional anomalies. Although the Realians' weapons appear similar to those used by humans, the caliber of their weaponry is comparable to that of a tank-mounted gun, and they fire reinforced ammunition. Wells Aliens refers to the octopus-like Martians invented by H.G. Wells. The in-game reference is to a comment Xion makes regarding Alan's stubbornness. You're usually so hard-headed with your logic and preconceptions. I was a little worried that you'd become like one of Wells' aliens. For better or worse, it appears as though Xion believes that Wells' aliens have very hard heads. Whitening. You know what? I bet this is a reference to Xenogears as well. Whitening, a phenomenon in which a human being touched by a gnosis turns completely white and shatters into dust. Xion and Trenkov have both experienced a near whitening. Trenkov later transformed into a gnosis, but whether Xion will do the same is unknown. Wilhelm, founder and CEO of the interplanetary conglomerate Vector Industries. He also served as the executive committee director of the Galaxy Federation up to a decade ago. Like Chaos, his origins and personal history are shrouded in mystery. A man in a scarlet cloak, his advisor and aide, is ever present at his side, and the strains of Wagner can always be heard in his office. Woglinde, built by Vector Industries and loaned to the Federation Marine Corps, it was the first battleship specifically built to combat Gnosis. Well, that didn't go very well. Although Vector hastily added a bridge and a bare-bones propulsion system to make it operable on the test flight, the ship remains 80% incomplete. Due to its status as a test prototype, the Vector logo can be seen in place of the usual Federation Marine Corps insignia. The ship consists of a unique bi-level design, which enables it to split into an upper and lower section. The upper section houses the bridge. The lower section is not actually part of the vessel's body. It was created with recycled material to temporarily house the new logic drive during its test flight. Vessel length, 1,000 meters. Jeez, that's pretty big. Y-Data, a series of research data left by the late Joachim Mizrahi, sought by the UTIC organization and the SOCE. In the story, this data is said to exist in Momo's unconscious memory, although it is not very certain. Dialogue surrounding it suggests that this data is vital to the Zohar project. Ziggurat 8. Ziggurat Industries Cyborg version 8.0. Since the advent of Realian technology, all effort to develop new cyborgs was abandoned, but pre-existing models continued to be upgraded. However, with the enactment of the Species Preservation Act, this practice was also stopped, making version 8.0 the last of the Ziggurat series. Ziggurat Industries, a corporate entity specializing in cybernetic technology and biotechnology. After the enactment of the Species Preservation Act, it eliminated its alien cybernetics department and shifted its resources towards development of nanotechnology. Ziggy, born TC-4637. Even that has a 7 in it, jeez. A combat cyborg assigned to the task of recovering and protecting Momo, the 100 series observational Realian. Upon his death in TC-4667 at the age of 30, his body was donated to science, and 2 years later he was reborn as a combat cyborg. The last rank he held was captain of the 1875th Special Operations Command Detachment of the Federation Police Bureau. He is currently appropriated to the SOCE according to Federation law. Upon death, he is currently appropriated to the SOCE. According to Federation law, upon death, an individual's body is designated as public property. Thus, they are no longer able to control their own fates. Perhaps this is why Ziggy considers himself simply equipment owned by the SOCE. His thinking is in direct contrast to Momo, who longs to be human. Ziggy constantly strives to turn himself completely into a machine through repeated tune-ups that eliminate his human parts, piece by piece. His looks belie his extremely old age, and his advice gained from years of experience is both practical and precise. His former name was, I'm not actually sure if they pronounce it Jan or Yan Sour in this game, or if it ever gets pronounced at all. Zohar Incident. I think this is supposed to be Zohar Incident. The incident that triggered a massive war within the Federation, which culminated in the Miltian conflict. Although details pertaining to this incident are unknown, it was around this time that Trenkov was born as a super soldier, biological weapon. Zohar, a mysterious golden object, and the focal point of the story throughout the entire Xenosaga series. The word originates from Zohar, Book of Splendor, a central literary work of the Kabbalah. Zohar Project, a project involving the Galaxy Federation, SOCE, Second Militia, and Vector, among others. As to the exact nature of this project, please stay tuned for the following episodes. Oh, yay! They're even admitting that you don't find out about the details in this game. 100 Series Observational Unit. The anti-Gnosis observational realians that were slated for duty on board the Woglinde. They are capable of unleashing the Hilbert Effect. 100 Series Realian. Another name for the 100 Series observational units. The 100 Series system, which combines DSSS and the Hilbert Effect, is a brand new technology which was only recently developed. The entire system weighs over 10 tons, making it virtually impossible to scale it down to human size. Thus, the 100 Series system that was issued to the military consists of two parts. The main system, a 15 meter by 15 meter block resembling a supercomputer, and a mass-produced 100 Series Realian as a terminal device. This system and the one installed in KOS-MOS share the same technology, leading to speculation that the two are somehow connected. 117th Marine Division. A Federation Marine Corps division assigned to escort the cruiser Woglinde. Since the division's HQ is not in close proximity to the Federation bases, resupply of their equipment was delayed. First Lieutenant Virgil, born TC 4735, age 32 years old, a First Lieutenant of the Galaxy Federation Marine Corps and a brilliant eggs pilot. He is afflicted with Dme Addiction, which is caused by the consumption of Realian body tissue, as evidenced by the condition of his facial skin. 400 level of the program, part of the program used to measure KOS-MOS's combat capabilities. 474th Special Operations Fleet. The fleet that attacked Junior and Company. It was deployed by Margulis, who predicted that the Kukai Foundation would take action to investigate the Woglinde incident. And that is it in the database for now. We do have some missing entries. I will periodically check. I've made a list of which ones were in the dictionary, the database right now, and where the blanks were. So when we get new entries, I will read off just those entries. I need more to drink now. See you all in the next episode.